reverse a little bit. So I think everything's going to calm down around here now. So while that's happening, maybe we might go look for some incredible inkahumas. Let me know. I think we're going to go look for some inkahumas. We'll be back here hopefully this afternoon, maybe even a little bit later and drive if we have no luck with the incredible inkahumas. So while we do that, let's jump on foot with Steph.
We found ourselves back at this termite mound. Now some of you might recognize the shape of this particular termite mound. We visited it 3 or 4 times already in the last couple of months, and in this little hole that we have here is a tortoise. And that tortoise, it's a hingeback tortoise that's been in there for the last, I don't know, I think it's about, the first time we saw it was I think May or June, probably around about May. And it's just so nice to see that this tortoise is still there. And still, even though we've had some rain and it's greening up quite nicely, we're not seeing this tortoise come out. It's not as warm as it was here the last time, and also there's no leaf litter. I think this tortoise has come out a little bit and has taken these leaves out of its hole. The last time I was here was about a month ago, and it was packed with leaves and it was quite warm inside there. Now, we know that this tortoise is still alive because, as you see from the feet that are sticking out on either side there at the back, they are still intact. They don't look like they are rotting off. I just find it amazing. It's the first time in all my guiding career that I've actually had a hole here where we've been able to come and sit and see these tortoises that are estivating in this particular manner. I feel that they've picked a termite mound because the termite mound radiates a certain heat, and so even if it's the coldest day, which would make tortoises and other cold-blooded animals as sluggish and basically bring their metabolism down to a near stop, the termite mound, not inside the termite mound, I feel it'll get too hot, and too hot means they'll burn through their fat reserves too quickly. But it's just off to the one side. I think it's just warm enough. I think this tortoise knew exactly where it wanted to be. Dug itself a nice sort of oval hole, and I've managed to find one other hole like this. This oval hole is characteristic, and I think dug it with its feet and has moved inside there and is just head in, shell out, legs to the side. And as you can see, doing pretty well, I think. I can't wait to see what month of the year is moving.
Yeah, I saw his leg move a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, I touched it.
Oh, he tucked it in?
Yeah.
It's obviously getting a little bit more active now that the temperatures are starting to pick up and vegetation is starting to green up. Tortoises are obviously quite slow moving, and they need vegetation to basically give them their fat reserves to last them for the season, but they also do it to get water. So they've got a big sac at the end of their large intestine called a bursa, and that sac is it's an enlargement of the large intestine, and they use it to store water, and they need a lot of green vegetation to eat, to get the water that they need and the fat that they need to last the winter, when vegetation basically goes to nothing. We've all seen how dusty and dry this place can get during the winter time. And little cold-blooded tortoises, as slow as what they are, they've been around for how many millions of years? Now, Natman, you've just asked me if holes like this are a hindrance or could be a problem when we're driving in the roads because they cave in. Natman, not really, no. Termite mounds do have the ability to weaken dam walls. So I would say rather than a road where a problem is, termite mounds are dangerous to dam walls. Termites, they create a lot of porous cavities in a mound like this, and what will happen there is the dam wall, the pressure of the water against that dam wall can cause these cavities to cave in, especially when they're submerged. So termites and dam walls are not friends with one another. Roads, not from a caving in point, Natman, but definitely from disturbing roads. What will happen is this termite mound will appear in the middle of a road, and you drive over it for a season, and then that road will get closed for whatever reason. The elephant pushes a tree down, and what happens then is these termite mounds grow up so high that you can't drive your car over them anymore, and then you have to start driving around this termite mound. And so the roads meander around these termite mounds, especially these big ones. Big termite mound like this definitely has the ability to change road. Let's go on to the other side. There's actually a road here which I can show you. And let's go and see if this termite mound has indeed started to influence where this road is. In actual fact, there's a few examples here that I can show you. So if we look down the road, you'll see that that termite mound on the left of the pole over there has influenced the direction of the road. And if we look up the road on the side, we can see that this termite mound is actually growing to about here. So this is the extent of this termite mound, and I have no doubt that over the next couple of years this road will shift closer to where you're standing at the moment, or where you're sitting at the moment. This road will shift and will move further away from this mound. But as for caving in, no, they're pretty strong. I mean, I've had no problems driving my Land Rover like right up to the side of these things. It looks like there's a cavity here actually. So Nat, man, you've sparked a big discussion here. Now, obviously approaching these things from the front can be very dangerous, and I see that the entrance to this burrow is absolutely churned up. Excuse me, stopping speaking there. Wow. So here we go, Nat, man. Here is a prime example of what a chamber or cavity looks like inside a termite mound. That's been excavated. It was excavated probably by an ant bear to start, and then was finished off by a warthog, it looks like, or perhaps even hyena. The tracks at the entrance would lead me to believe that it's probably a warthog of some sort. It's empty now, this burrow, but just have a look at that. Isn't it fantastic? I just like these types of burrows. Now, Tiffany, all the way from Seattle, has asked, how long does it take a termite mound to get this size? Tiffany, this is a pretty big termite mound. I'm going to climb up it so that you can see exactly how tall this thing is. I'm going to walk all the way through. Have a look at that. I mean, this termite mound is easily probably, I don't know what we'd give it at, probably 4 meters, so about 12-15 feet into the air. And this termite mound could quite easily be 20 years old, 20 or 30 years old. And doesn't have any large trees growing on it, so it's still a very active termite mound. But you do get termite mounds that are easily double this height and double as wide, occurring on this particular reserve. And on them they have trees, hardwood trees, trees like jackalberries, trees like weeping boerbeens, trees like tambutis, which grow for hundreds of years. And we're talking about 200 or 300 or 400 years. And the tree is obviously growing on top of these mounds. Not the mound didn't grow past the tree grew on top of the mound. So these mounds can last and are active for hundreds and hundreds of years, Tiffany. Isn't that just astonishing? I just find these building-sized bits of mud, and basically every single grain of sand that comprises this particular termite mound was stuck there with a little bit of saliva, a little bit of water, a little bit of sand, and a little bit of cellulose, which is the leftover plant material that these termites gather from all the plants around them. And they chew it up into the cement, they stick it down. It takes about a day to get hard enough to tap so that you won't break it. But by the time the sun out here has baked these termite mounds, they're so solid that as you can see, I can sit on top of the spire, no problem. I'm feeling quite secure. Nice, eh? Alright, now the trick is to dismount without falling, slipping, losing all my skin. Now David, all the way from Napa, has asked, how can you tell if a termite mound is active? David, quite simply, it's the level of vegetation that you see on this particular termite mound. When you see a lot of bare patches of soil like this means that it's active. And by active, I mean that the outside of the termite mound is growing at such a pace that vegetation, trees can't take root in it quick enough before those seeds are buried or incorporated into this churning mass of sand. So if you had to basically fast forward the life of this termite mound, in other words, keep this camera that we have on this thing here for days and weeks, you'll see that the outside of this termite mound would be very active, very fluid, and that stops or prohibits at least the germination of plants. When you see a termite mound that is vegetated, which is covered in grass and covered in young trees, and there are no bare patches of soil, then you know that either the termite mound has matured, it's gotten to a size that the outside of the termite mound isn't growing bigger, and that all the activity is centered on the inside of the termite mound, or the termite mound has died for whatever reason. It's had an ant bear infestation, or it's just in a dormant phase of this termite mound's life. We don't quite know exactly what we need to know about termite mounds, how long they stay active for, how long they go dormant for. Are the termite colonies that live in it hereditary? In other words, do they have a succession of queens for hundreds of years? I'd like to believe that particular story, at least, or that particular hypothesis, at least, anyway. But a very good question there, David, and keep a view on the termite mounds that you pass. Now, Joey, you've asked a question about how long after the termite mound has become dormant will it take for this termite mound to go back to soil? Wow, Joey, that's a good question. In that I don't really think that termite mounds of this size will disappear. So it'll take hundreds of years again for termite mounds like this to be completely washed away. But a termite mound is essentially one big air conditioning system, and it has a very complex structure. Warm air rises out of the central column and out of these central vents, and it creates such a convection out of this central area that they suck in from the exploration tunnels on the outside, and even from the outside of the mound, but definitely from outside. Sucks cold air in, picks up moisture. These termite mounds go right down to the water table. I'm only standing on the 10% of this termite mound. The other 90% is underground, subterranean. Picks up water and moisture. The metabolic heat of these termites inside creates this funnel of hot air that comes out of the top. Now that's just the airflow through these things. The inside is a honeycomb, not just of sand like this, but also a very complex structure of cellulose tunnels, woody tunnels, fungus gardens, compost heaps, rubbish dumps, chambers, birthing chambers, where young termites are nursed. It's a very complex building, this, basically. Me personally, I feel that once a termite mound reaches a size like this, that they are such good buildings to occupy that for new termites to come and reoccupy one of these mounds and get them going again if it became dormant is far easier than building one of these buildings from scratch. So I don't think that big termite mounds, at least termite mounds that are this size and larger, actually ever disappear. That's my own theory about that. I think that they are just used for generations of termites, and when they finally do go dormant for whatever reason, even if it's for a couple of years, they get recolonized again very, very quickly, and the termite mound sort of gets going again, right from the word go. Now, Marco, you've asked if we could use a termite mound as a refuge in the winter. Marco, absolutely we can use termite mounds as a refuge in the winter. We're going to go back to this mound here. Now obviously termite mounds, being warm, are also refuges for snakes. Now in wintertime, a lot of snakes use termite mounds to hibernate. Very similar to that tortoise that's using this termite mound just on the other side of it. Very similar do snakes use these termite mounds. Now if I were stuck, if it were me in a survival situation, if I was being chased by something, if I had nowhere to sleep and I was quite exposed, would I use this particular chamber as a refuge? Absolutely. I run the risk though of sharing it with things like puff adders, cobras and pythons, any number of snakes, and I would probably go in there and have a good look around before I climbed in there. I wouldn't just climb in there. Then what I'd do is I'd go and cut one of these thorny stems or just a branch like this, I'd cut the branch, probably here somewhere. I'd invert it, in other words, grab it by the branch point, and I'd pull it into the mound with me so that I create this barrier on the outside. Very similar to how porcupines do it, or warthogs for that matter of fact. And I'd pull it into the barrier, and there I'd sleep there. And it would be warm. It would actually be a very comfortable abode. But they are prone to being flooded. You can imagine if it rained really, really hard, it would flood. And so they do get a bit muddy. There are great sources of clay, and so if you do have some time to build yourself a proper hut, and by a proper hut I mean not just a lean-to, I'm talking about a proper A-frame hut, which you could do very, very easily over here. There's just a lot of building material out here. You can build yourself a proper hut or a proper grass hut here very, very easily. You wouldn't actually have to live inside a hole like this. Now Michael, you've asked a question, do I know the height of the tallest termite mound? I don't, to be quite honest with you, Michael. I'm actually going to throw that question right back at you, because termites are very widespread across the world. Termite mounds themselves are very variable in height and size. I would like to say though that in my travels I haven't seen taller or bigger termite mounds than in the Sabi Sands. The Sabi Sands for me has the tallest, largest termite mounds that I've found in my travels from the tip of southern Africa all the way to the northern end of Kenya. But you might find that in some areas they are taller, so please feel free to send in an answer to this particular conundrum to questions@WildEarthTV or to the hashtag Safari Live, and I'd gladly, if we get them early enough, share them with the rest of you. So if any of you want to help Michael there, what is the tallest termite mound in the world and how high is it? It would be fantastic to share with you today. And on that note, we're going to send you over to Brent, who's found an elephant.
Well, we're on our way to look for lions, and we've stumbled across some elephants. Now, they could have easily pushed the lions during the night, so it's going to be interesting to see if the lions are still in the same place we left them yesterday. Oh, here comes a young bull behind us. He seems to be in a hurry. They're all feeding on the edge of the Mwati River. They're going into some Tumbuti thickets. They might pop out at the Galago Pan just now, but we're not going to be able to follow them where they're going. And I see more vultures going into where I last saw those lions. I just saw a vulture drop. Now, when we left them, there was a herd of buffalo about 100 meters away from them. They were still eating a wildebeest. So could they have had another successful hunt overnight? Oh, naughty elephants. Oh, look at that, Polly. Look at that elephant. He's about to get on a really steep bank. Go. It's amazing the things they can climb. I mean, us as human beings might have quite a bit of trouble going up and down there. And there's a massive 3-ton young elephant bull going straight down. More vultures dropping in. Okay, this is good. This is good signs. Let's see where they're landing. A little bit further in from where we had the lions, but very close to where we had them on the sunset safari. Let's have a look what's going on here. There's lots of birds of prey flying about. What have we got there? Hey, has he got something? Looks like a yellow-billed. No, that's not a yellow-billed kite. There's another bird there that's a yellow-billed kite. That looks like a... I don't know where we're looking now. Oh, that one's right next to us. That looks like a tawny eagle. There's a yellow-billed kite as well. First one I've seen on Djuma. And I did see vultures coming in here as well. Juvenile basilia, that one. Okay, let's get in there. There's so much activity up in the sky with birds of prey. There's got to be something happening here. So I left the lions. Just in here, there's a vulture. Now, could the incredible Nkuhumas have caught another buffalo? This is a tawny eagle. And there is the first yellow-billed kite of the season. Where's he disappeared? Oh, he's going in. I mean, just look at that. There's bateleur, vulture. Now, where are my binoculars now? Where did I put my far lookers? Now, I left the lions not far from here. Just looking to see if there are any tracks. Now, there's tracks all over, but that looks like they could have been going towards the Gallagher Pan for a drink. So we left the lions just through there. There we go. BM's just seen lion tracks on this game path. Which way are they going, BM?
In and out.
In and out. So where they had the kill was just in that little, where are we looking? In that little gap. Where are we? Let me just get my bearings. And sort of in there yesterday. Is that a lion or was that elephant dung I see? It's elephant dung. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check a little bit further down this little 2-track here, and then if we get nothing, I'm going to have to go through the river and to where we last had them and see if we can see which way they went. There's just so many birds of prey around here. I'm just looking very carefully, so I might not look at you guys for a while. Now, Amelia is wondering, do vultures ever catch animals? Amelia, they do very seldom. Normally it's the lappet-faced and the white-headed vulture that have been known to catch animals, and if they don't have a choice, if there's not a lot of carrion around for them to scavenge. Have a look down into the river here. So the wildebeest kill they made yesterday was sort of under that tambuchi tree. Is that a lion barely off to the left? Well, it's difficult to see from this side. Just listen quickly, see if we can hear any cub noises. Okay, think I'm going to have to go through the river. Now, it's a very strong possibility they might have killed something not very far from where they last were. Stand by one, Orbs. Okay, and I just heard a bird that we haven't put on camera yet this wet season. It should be not visible. I thought it might be visible from here. And I heard a Levaillant cuckoo, a striped cuckoo, the old name. Just chat to Aubrey, he's helping me look for the lions. Standing by, Orbs. Trying to see, where did I go last night? And there's been so many elephants that they might have obliterated my vehicle tracks. Did we sneak through here? No, it must be a little bit further upstream. Over there? Ah, yeah. Graham says we can go through there, but we get stuck over here. I think it's just on the other side of these some birchy trees where we went through last night. Here we go. This is where we crossed. It's our new crossing point for this area. Quite a nice one compared to some of the areas we have to go through. Easy peasy. You can see on the left here the elephants have done some rearranging to my normal crossing points, and it's made it near impossible for me to get through.
Of everybody's knowledge around you, and there's just so much to share. While I've been practicing my trapping techniques over the last couple of weeks, Herbert has been telling me, Stefan, I've got a trap for birds that I can show you. We used to use it when I was a young man. And Herbie used to collect himself lunch with this particular contraption, and he's very kindly decided to share this information with us and decided to share his trap design. And he's made everything, literally everything, in the last 15 minutes just using natural bark fibers and sticks while we were talking about the termite mound a little bit earlier. And this is what he's made. It's a bird trap. And just have a look at that. Very sophisticated, and I'm going to go through it with you now. So it comprises of bark fiber rope. This is made from bark fiber, literally this. That's what Herbie peeled to make some cordage. So he just splits it like this. And then you twist it together. I have showed this before, but I won't do it now. I want to show you what's going on. That's just what he made the rope out of. He then created two uprights, this stick here, and tied it with some bark, and this stick here, and tied it with some bark, and with a loose stick in the middle. Now this basically becomes the perch. So what we're doing is we're creating a place, a pristine place for a bird to come and sit. We then camouflaged it. So what you want to do is you want to have the birds come and sit inside the loop, and then we've got a trigger system, and now you can set the trigger. Now basically the weight of the bird pushes this stick down, which releases the trigger, which then snaps this bent branch over and catches the bird. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to catch my hand for you. My fingers are the bird, lands on the stick, and obviously missed there, but got to get myself some practice over there. So to reset it, pretty easy. We take it out through here, underneath, take our trigger, take our perch stick, set the trap. There you go. And then we put the trap over the branch. There. We camouflage it. Oh, my camouflage has disappeared. It was shot into space. But you'd camouflage it. So basically some camouflage. Bird lands on the stick, bang, and gets caught in this trap. Isn't that just amazing? That's just some very, very, very easy ways of catching a bird for lunch, and something that Herbie has been using for the last 30 years out here in the bush. I've never ever seen this trap design before. I've never seen it illustrated in a book. It's not knowledge that you're likely to encounter wherever you are. In all likelihood, this is a trap method that was shown to Herbert by his father or by one of his friends, and who knows how many thousands of years little boys have been playing with toys like this. These are the types of toys that get me going, I tell you. So let's just set that again. And the level of sophistication here is incredible. The cordage, the fact that you're creating this pristine perch for a bird. You've got a trigger mechanism that this trigger can be set very light or very heavy, depending on how high up the stick you want it to be placed. This particular bark fiber is easily strong enough to catch anything up to the size of a goose, even bigger. And then the fact that you so that you can force birds to land where you want them to land. So you'd place a bit of fruit here to entice the birds to land on your particular stick. And then you'd stop them with a bit of camouflage from just landing wherever they want. Ooh, I almost set it off there. I just find that incredible. Bird comes along, bam, whips up, catches him in the noose, and lunch is done. And I mean, like I said, this cordage is super strong. I mean, I'm pretty much exerting all the force that I can on the skinniest part of that trap. This is just easy enough to hold anything. Now, of course, we just use these for demonstration purposes, so I just want to, reiterate the fact that these trapping methods that we're showing are a way to share knowledge, and it's a way to bridge gaps and bridge divides. I come from a very academic background, Herbie comes from a very practical background, and we're just sort of sharing our knowledge here with you. Just interesting ways that people used to look after themselves. Of course, nowadays, we don't need to trap animals to feed ourselves. We've got all the resources that we need around camp to get food brought to us, and so these trapping methods are literally just for interest's sake. We will completely dismantle this trap when we're finished, so that it has absolutely no way of catching anything. So just to reassure you there that this is literally just for interest's sake and a way to bridge that gap that we have out here, this divide gap, and to share knowledge. What you want to do out here is, as much as what you can, you want to share knowledge. I'm just learning this trap, learning how it works, the mechanisms in it. I think if I were to modify it slightly, it would be to, although I don't know how you do that, it would be to probably come up with a more effective noose. But to be quite honest, I think it was the way that I was setting it. So there, I'm going to modify it slightly by making the loop a little bit longer, without this in the way, and let's see if that is more effective at catching me. There we go. Yes, just so that was much more effective. The way that I set that loop there. So let's set that again. Oh man, this is like a kid getting a new Lego set. So let's just get that. So what I want to do is I want to try and make the noose part more efficient. There we go. So I've got it, just been playing with it now. Probably find Herbie's looking over our shoulder going, yes, I knew that all along. If you just asked me, I would have told you. So there's the trigger again. Just so super simple. Just have a look at that. Oh, awesome. Anyway, let me set this. I want to set the trap one last time. I'm not going to put it over. I'm going to set it, and then we're going to leave you with a picture. For those of you who are interested in this sort of thing, grab a screen grab. That there is a very, very effective bird trap. Learned from Herbert. Shangaan Bird Catching 101. Can't get better. Right, and with that we're going to send you back over to Brent, who's got an update on his tracking for you.
So we've got to where the lions made that wildebeest kill last night. Their tracks are heading north from there. So we're right in the middle of the block, about halfway between all the roads, and we've got a friend who's traveling with us now. It is the female wildebeest from last night, and it's for James in his tent. And I just got a stick stuck underneath the car, so I'm just going to remove it quickly. Not too big a one. And we do apologize for any bashing and crashing, but we are in the middle of the block. Lion track still going straight north. They could be anywhere around here, so we're looking very carefully. Still see tracks on your side there, Vim? No tracks. Just a zebra. That's not good. Let's just take a quick squiz around. So we're just walking, checking which way the lines went. There's a couple of big elephant paths that split through this area. No footprints here yet. Let's have a quick look a little bit further to the west. Okay. Still here. very, very slowly. They could be very close. Aubrey's already trekked around here. That's an impala. We're just checking every little bit of open patch. We're looking for that nice big white lion belly. Nope, not there. Okay, while we keep trying to make our way back towards the road while still following the lion tracks, let's go back to Steph and see if he's managed to fix his trap.
So yes, you are looking into the top of a marula tree at the moment. This marula tree we've decided, just using myself as a gauge. Now I'm 6 foot tall, and so let's just take it from there. So that's 12 feet, that would be 18 feet, 24 feet. Maybe we're lucky we could get 30 feet out of this tree. Now we've just heard, and thank you kindly for giving these facts in for us about the termite mounds, but the largest termite mound ever recorded was Gian in Illinois. Thank you very, very much. There we go, came through there. The largest termite mound ever recorded was 14 meters tall. Now 14 meters is probably just over 30 feet, somewhere around there. This tree is not as tall as the tallest termite mound that has ever been recorded. Let me give you an idea. I'm going to go back to the tree and stand next to it so that you can get a true impression of how big that actually is. That is unbelievable. Like I said, I'm 6 foot tall. Amazing. And now it's for the next amazing fact, is that the deepest termite mound ever recorded, I don't know whether they were the same one, but the deepest termite mound ever recorded was 30 meters deep, which is about 90 feet. So 3 times this tree deep into the ground. That's just astounding. Let me go to our rather modest termite mound that we have by comparison here next to us. This one here isn't even, this one here is just over 6 feet tall. And this is only 10%. I mean, it's just, I'm just flabbergasted by that. Wow. That's incredible. Alright, well on that note, I think I want to carry on with my rather insignificant game walk this morning. What I am doing, for those of you who noticed me whittling away at the stick, is I have found what I believe to be a replacement for a plant that I used to work with in the Waterberg called a pipe stem remani. And what the settlers used to do is make pipe stems for their tobacco pipes out of these pipe stems. And they used to take a stick, basically just the same as I have, split it down the middle, like that, open it up, hollow out the core. As you can see there, this core is hollow. Or it had some wood in it, but I ended up hollowing it out. Then they used to stick it back together again using resin from the trees. So stick it back together like that, and then bind it with cordage or bind it with, you know, whatever they could find, bits and pieces of hide, and then they'd have a pipe stem for their pipe. And the bowl of their pipe, they used to carve it out of marula seeds. They used to carve it out of bits and pieces of bone. They could carve it out of whatever you want. It's just the receptacle for the tobacco. And then they used to put it full of tobacco, and then they used to smoke it. And I've just decided to give my hand at making a pipe stem. I'm not a smoker myself at all. I don't smoke, so me making one like this is going to be rather difficult, but I would imagine that you'd have to get these edges here to be fairly level so that you could stick the top half to the bottom half. So what I'm trying to do is create an even plane that you see there. I'm getting there. It's not tapered. I mean, it's slightly tapered, but I don't think that that's going to be too much of one. This one is going to be more challenging because it's bowed. You see there? So what I'm trying to do is get rid of these little imperfections here. I think the more time you spend in preparation of this, the better. So one side is slightly higher than the other, which is no good. Let's do that on this side. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create, although I think I'm just making it worse now. You know, quite often it's best not to fiddle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of the cordage. Can I get that? Thank you. I'm going to use some of the cordage from the trap that Herbie made for us. So this is the cordage. This is how much rope he made in literally 3 minutes. Like, easily like 5 foot of cordage made out of some acacia bark. Just have a look at that. I mean, have a look at how strong that is. And it gets quite thick over here as well. Where he's joined it, I'm going to be looking for a skinny part of this cordage, probably here. And then I want to wrap this as tightly as I can. Now we're supposed to use a bit of resin. See where we can go and find some resin here. Probably down towards the drainage line we'll find some acacia resin. Let's carry on. Then go, you heat resin up on the fire. You heat it up very, very slowly. It burns incredibly easily. So what you want to do with resin is you want to heat it up next to the fire, just on a flat rock basically. The rock then absorbs the heat and it will start to melt the resin, and when the resin is nice and runny you can then coat it on to whatever you're trying to stick. And resin, it's very, very useful stuff. It's waterproof, of course. It dries very, very hard, and you can mix it with different resins as well to make different properties. In this particular case, I'm just wanting to get my pipe stem done. So what I could do, the old knot making technique, make a loop all the way through. Put this next to it there. It's probably a bit too thick, but you know, at least it'll be comfortable to hold. And wind it on as much as I can. There you can see. And obviously that you'd cover up with resin when you find it. And then loop this once. Twice over. And not through. Obviously this rope is way too big for this sort of thing, but I'm just showing you that There's a big knot there, which is making it more difficult than it needs to be. Not working that well for me. I'm going to have to redo that, which is the story of my life, is redoing these things. Don't worry. But essentially what we've got here is we've got a handle that is now hollow, that we can use as a tube, suck water out of a depression with it, collect water, blow it into a receptacle. There's many things that you can use here, or use tubes for, at least anyway. Right, what we're looking for is we're looking for a tree that can give us some sap here, some gum, some resin. Yesterday we managed to find a rus tree that was busy leaking plenty of resin. That would have been a fantastic tree to collect some of this resin from. Let's see what we can find. We're going down here. It's just been such a fantastic walk today. It hasn't been very warm. I mean, I must say it's probably in the 70s at the moment. Probably high 70 degrees Fahrenheit, sort of mid 20s. It's comfortable enough not to want a jersey, even though it's not that warm. I think if we weren't walking around as much as we are, we definitely need some form of jersey. So here we have an acacia tree. Their gum is obviously highly valuable. It's 66 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's actually cooled down a little bit since this morning. This is an Ootheca from a praying mantis. Their egg casing, for those that are just joining us. And that has been used now. Baby praying mantises are out of there. No gum on this particular acacia, and so we carry on with our search. We'll eventually find something to use as a bit of, so look at this knobthorn. This time of the year, of course, not a time of the year that we're getting. That usually happens in summertime when the tree has got this abundance of sap that it can use. Alright, but what we are going to do is, I think Brent is in hot pursuit of these cats that he's busy tracking. Why don't we send you over there and we can give you an update. We'll catch up with you in a little bit.
Okay, so the lion tracks have headed further to the west. I've left William Aubrey's tracker on them, and we're heading now to the road. It should be just up ahead, and we'll head around towards the shortcut off Gallagher shortcut. So hopefully they've popped out there somewhere. Nearly back at the fire break, the boundary road. Just finding a way to worm our way through the last thicket. Now, it's incredible that I'll show you once I get back to the road. We're nearly there. There we go. Bouncy bounce. Oh. Yes. There we go. On the fire break, it's recently been dragged, or actually graded, so looking a lot better. And that's a lot easier to see tracks, which is always a good thing. I don't think the Inkumas have gone too far. There's no sign of them coming out in Gallagher shortcut. So let's just check this next little road. Just going very slowly, checking for tracks. Now remember, this is 100% live. Hashtag Safari Live, or questions at WildEarthTV if you want to ask us anything about what we're up to. Well, at the moment, we're tracking the incredible... Maybe I'm not tracking, maybe I'm spotting. Oh, it's a rock. I really thought I'd spotted a lion there. You see what I'm looking at, Vim? A little bit, I think, to the left. There. But it's a rock, not a lion. We've got no tracks yet. I'm going to check carefully here. I'm just going to go very, very slowly down here. So if we find no tracks on this road, it means they're in a very small area that we've got a very good chance of finding them. Remember, there was quite a few buffalo around here last night. Maybe they went hunting buffalo. And with that strong wind, we wouldn't have heard anything from our camp. Now we have been incredibly spoilt since the Nkuhumas had cubs, and they've spent the vast majority of their time on Djuma. I think they've only left Djuma that we know about twice in the last month, which is incredible and incredibly lucky. The last place I had tracks was sort of down there, so I'm going to see if they've popped out here. I keep thinking I'm smelling a carcass, but then again, it's Wendy, the female wildebeest's head, that I keep smelling, since she is just in front of me there. Harry is wondering how many days in a row have we seen big cats. Harry, we are currently sitting at 1 month and 5 days, I think. Since the 8th of September. What date are we today, Vian? I don't know. At 12th, I think. 11th? 13th, maybe? One of those. So, anywhere between 1 month and 4 days and 1 month and maybe 6 days. Split in the middle, 1 month and 5 days. It's my guess. There's a kudu looking alert, but I think it's alerted us. So we're going to keep looking for these lions, and while we do that, let's jump back on foot with Steph.
We've got this emergence of caterpillars that is covering the bushes around us. That caterpillar that you're having a look at there now is one of probably a couple of thousand that are festooning the trees in this area. So what's happened is these caterpillars have hatched from their eggs, they've come out, and they're now literally hanging everywhere. Everywhere we looked, it's hanging from my ears, these pieces of silk. Brian's covered in silk. These worms are blowing up from the top of this tree here, and you can see right at the top all the detritus that has been caught up in these worms. They're using the wind to disperse. So these caterpillars are using the wind to drag out from the plant to land on trees next to it. Now, why would they do that? They do that because to land on the floor is dangerous for one of these caterpillars. They get preyed upon by almost anything, and I'm going to show you now underneath this tree what I mean. But they get preyed upon by almost anything, and so for this caterpillar to walk down the tree, walk along the ground and up another tree until the leaves is not the most efficient way. So what they do on windy days like today is they extend a line of silk and then they hang and they swing until they reach the next tree. And that way they don't have to come down to the ground, and that way they don't get preyed upon as much. An ingenious way of and have a look, it's even managed to get hold of me. But just an ingenious way of just avoiding predators. It's even trying to eat my hair. We'll take him off. There we go. That wiggle there, that's just to say, hey, I don't like you touching me. So let's reward this guy with a leaf. But let's see if on the ground we can show you where some ants have been. So now at the base of the tree, ant colony. And here's a caterpillar that's just landed on the floor. Here's a caterpillar here that's just landed on the floor. Now what we've got to try and do is find you some ants that have been eating a caterpillar. I found 2 or 3 of them already. I just can't see one for the life of me now. You know, it's the usual story. They are just everywhere. Everywhere I'm looking is just more caterpillars. But not what I want to show you. Come now, ants, where are you? We're just busy searching frantically over here just to prove point. Oh, here we go. Right here. So there's ants that have just preyed on one of these caterpillars. And they're busy dragging it off the entrance of their burrow. You know that? 2 ants, one on either side. Just absolutely incredible. And very, very effective. I must be honest with you, we literally walked downwind of this tree, we're covered in this web, decided to look at what the cause of this web was, and then looked up, and just against the sky is just hundreds of these little caterpillars. They will, of course, a lot of them will be sacrificed to the food larders of other organisms, from wasps to ants to any number of other creatures, praying mantises, spiders, you name it, will be feasting on this bounty that are these caterpillars. And it's one of the reasons why moths and butterflies lay such an abundance of eggs, is so that they have this mass emergence. It gluts everything in the area, and the ones that are left are the ones that get away, the lucky ones, and they're the ones that pupate and will eventually turn into the moth or the butterfly that this particular caterpillar is going to turn into, and will then fly off to mate and have babies of their own. One thing I did just remember, which we can obviously do while we're sitting over here, is that I brought with, just for such an occurrence, I brought with my butterfly book, and in it is a whole bunch of butterflies, but it also gives us their caterpillars, which is something that is unusual for here. So what we're quickly going to do is, let's see if we can key out this particular caterpillar. Now you're going to be watching the smoke come out from mine ears as I concentrate on this thing. Let's see if we're lucky enough to be able to see what butterfly or moth this caterpillar comes from. This looks like it's here, the African migrant. So let's catch one. Let me quickly catch one. Let's put him there. Does that look like him? Similar, but I don't think so.
Very close.
So could we say the African migrant or something similar? Obviously this book doesn't have all the butterflies, moths in. It's just a collection of the most common ones around here. Let me get a closer look at this little guy. Yeah, I would probably say it's one of the migrants. Let's see another one over here. I'm now keeping my caterpillar on my thumb, so don't worry, I haven't squashed him. No, and of course, I decide to debut my book with you, and it doesn't have the butterfly I'm looking for it in.
Unless it is the migrant.
Unless it is that migrant. Yeah. Thank you very much for letting us use you as an example. As a prize, I will give you freedom on the leaf. Here we go. And from our brilliant emergence, I'm going to send you over to Brent for an update on his line tracking.
Well, welcome back. We've had to abandon our search for the lions. You can see I'm going very, very slowly, even more slow than when I go slow. And unfortunately, Rusty is having a little bit of a moment, so I'm creeping back to the workshop as slowly as I possibly can. Sorry, Andrew's calling me on the radio. Standing by. I haven't checked the boundary, but last tracks were going west towards Gallagher shortcut. Well, I think Aubrey did mention tracks of one Wanuna might have gone north. Okay, sorry about this, guys. You can see it's very, very slow process getting home without doing any damage to the car. But it is one of those things that happens out in the bush while you are following big cats and wild dogs through the bush. Occasionally we do have a few mechanical errors, but fortunately we've got Opar, who's incredible, and he manages to help us fix it in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Now, there's still a chance we might see the lions as they pop out through the bush. The last tracks we're heading into this area, and there are some impala crossing in front of us. And Aubrey and William are hot on their tail, so hopefully they'll be around for the sunset safari. And of course, we've got a new addition to the tent, Wendy, the wildebeest. So you can still see there's a bit of hair on it, so what we'll do now is we'll normally put it up somewhere a bit high on the roof and let the ants eat away the remaining flesh and hair, and the carrion beetles get into that brain cavity and eat what's left of the brain. Nothing further, Orbs? Copy, thanks, Orbs. So Aubrey is still looking. He hasn't managed to find them yet. Copy. Yeah, so this is what you call, so we go on Ferrari safaris from time to time. This is the opposite. This is a snail safari. Low range, patter, 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 patter. Of course, we got to hope that during the day, Karula hoists that impala carcass. nearly home. So, and you can see while we were following those lion tracks, we picked up a little bush willow, and just a little one. But that has got nothing to do with the problem we're facing in Rusty at the moment. Unfortunately, I think this problem extends back to the Karula kill, and that steering arm has been fine for a couple of days, and I think it's just been bent too many times. So we do have a spare to replace, so I'm just creeping home to go do that. Hopefully no one decides to use this road, because they're going to be stuck behind us for a very long time. So while we keep creeping, let's go see our steps faring on foot.
Well, let's hope that Rusty isn't too terminal. I must be honest with you, the cars, when they get sick, wild cars do get sick, and of course our three ladies do tend to be a little bit more temperamental from time to time. I think it's the weather anyway. Let's hope it's not terminal, because that will definitely make me a bolder man than I am now. Let's carry on going. We've decided to come into this thick block basically, and now we are winding our way through what is quite a dangerous area, to be quite honest with you. You don't quite know what's in these areas, so stop and listen, stop and listen. That's basically how you get through these areas. But it does allow me to return to a comment that I was making a little bit earlier about how abundant, I think it was Jason, you were asking us about sleeping inside termite mounds, and I said yes, for a night or two it's possible, but you know, generally speaking, what you'd want to do is you'd want to make your own type of shelter, either a lean-to shelter or an A-frame shelter, and these trees are almost the best thing for it. They're quite termite resistant. As you can see, they grow really straight, so you'd be able to take a cutting from this, you'd be able to hack it out quite quickly with a saw or your knife. And you'd be able to then fashion yourself a cross member, and you'd be able to then lash it between two trees, very similar to how we lashed that bark fiber, just across the two, lash it around, and there you've got your lean-to frame, basically like that. As you can see, I'm whittling another stick, basically like that. And then you'd put your sticks on the other side. Might even do it now. Can I loan your rope again, Brian? I keep on giving Brian this rope and then taking it back again. It's such a versatile thing, this. Thank you very much. We've rolled it around my pipe stem, basically. So, let's see if we can do this just quickly, just to show you what I mean. Now, some of you might be asking, you know, Steph, why do we have to hack at that tree to make this point? Don't worry too much about that. To be honest with you, these types of trees are very resilient, and this type of thing is, honestly, when you look at what we are around, what we're facing us around over here, it's not too bad. And so I'm sorry if I did offend some of you by doing that, but just for the case in point, I want to try and show you what I can do. Alright, so let's take some of it there. Alright, so take some of this off. Make some fantastic cordage, this acacia, I must be honest with you. It's just some of the most brilliant stuff to work with. Alright, so just a very basic lashing onto the tree. you can of course lash it in ever increasing lengths, and the best ones for this is actually to use bark, because you can get a nice finishing off knot with a piece of bark. You just bring it in back underneath itself, and that allows you to tie it off quite securely. You then take pieces of your stump or of your branches and you lay them sideways. Now for this particular example, I think I'll carry on splitting these off. No, not splitting too easy. But basically, as you can see, you'd create what in effect is a lean-to. And you'd strap them down, and then what you'd do is you'd thread bits and pieces of grass or stick through them like that. Thread it through, one under, one over, one under, one over, basically like that, so that you end up with a lattice work. I'm trying to do this all too quickly, of course, and that with me is not a good sign. So one under, one over, one under, and then again the next one would be exactly the opposite, so that you end up with a lattice work that look like that, basically. Thread, or you can thread leaves if you are lucky enough to be around a patch of bush that gives you access to some big leaves. You can, otherwise not too much of a problem. You down bits and pieces of leaves, leaf down, and you lay them on top of your lean-to shelter, on top of this lattice work that you've made, tying them in. And basically what you want to try and create is a shelter, leaf down, that you can fit in underneath. You build your fire, gets
well, our creeping is nearly over. We're about to arrive at the workshop, unfortunately, but it should be fixed in 2 ticks. It's not a big job to replace a steering arm. It takes about 15 minutes or so. Well, maybe a little bit longer than that. And see, we're going very fast. You can hear the hammering happening down there. The workshop's awake. That's a good sign. Now the fun part is going to be driving over the pit while tyres aren't quite straight, but I think we'll manage. Now, Atherton's wondering if we've ever considered using electric cars. We have. Unfortunately, the electric car has not quite caught up with what the rigorous off-roading needs that are needed out here in the African bush. So, Land Rover have tried a few times, but the batteries keep exploding. Oh dear. There's Opal. There's another car that's getting fixed, so we'll just park next to it. There's very sickly. Now let me see if we can find Opal. Oh, there's Opal.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Opal.
How are you?
Shouting for.
What is it?
Same. Oh, this is Hong Kong. It's a wildebeest.
What a beast.
Yes.
Okay.
For James.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to say goodbye while Opa and I try get this car sorted as quickly as possible. So while we do that, enjoy your last couple of minutes of drive with Steph on foot.
Yes, we had to go into some better signal there. You lost us in the area where we were building that sort of to-scale lean-to model that I was showing you over there. I must take my time and build you a proper one one day. I think you're all going to be thinking that I can only build to-scale models of bows with dental floss string and everything else without really ever being able to show you anything really. Now, James Richard, you just asked me if it's only the acacias that give you this lovely cordage that you can make. So just to get you a nice view again of this cordage that we made for that bird trap a little bit earlier. You've asked if it's only the acacias or can you use other types of trees. You can absolutely use a few other types of trees, James. Very good trees for cordage, caterpillar pod, the terminalias, almost all of the terminalias with silver cluster leaf here being the best one. All of the acacias give you nice cordage. There's a couple of aloe-like or succulent plants, mother-in-law's tongue we call it over here, that is also very good for cordage. That gives you a nice thin cordage, so very fine strands that you can weave into a strong but thinner rope than this. This is very thick. This is what you'd use in basket weaving or in tying stuff with it, like making a lean-to shelter. This is the type of cordage that you want for that. What else can you use cordage or make cordage from? Just those few trees. I mean, in this particular area, there's a few acacias here, so it's not just one specific species of acacia. There's many acacias here. There's also 3 different types of terminalias here, and we use those as well. Wow. While I'm busy having a look at this is something very weird. This little thicket of trees that you're having a look at is a grove of zebrawood trees. Isn't this amazing? Now, generally we find dead zebrawood that have been damaged by fire or been damaged by animals. But it's very, very rare, exceptionally rare, to find a grove of living, A, and B, clustered together zebrawoods like this. Wow! And they're growing in what's like roughly a circle. Hey guys, how are you? This is amazing. So these trees hardly ever get big. They can get quite big in areas where they're not hammered by elephant. They probably get about as thick as what I am at their base, and a good 15 meters or so off the ground. They're a fairly big tree, or can be a fairly big tree. Elephant keep them well coppiced. As you can see, even these trees are well coppiced. But it's just so nice to see living ones. They're very rare to see. You only almost ever see them tiny like this, and this is just inside a living grove, and I've never seen a grove of zebrawood trees. I know it's pretty doesn't look like much, but this is quite a special place. This is quite nice. I think this is going to take note to see how it does. This is very cool. All right, let's carry on going. It's nice to see, eh? Now, the trick when it's cloudy out here to actually see where we are is a difficult thing. Of course, you don't have the sun, so it's difficult to see where east or where west is. You've almost got to use your instinct about where you've been for the day and then aspects of the land. But it is very easy to get lost out here. And not so much in the Sabi Sands, but there are other places like the Tamboti thickets, or not Tamboti thickets, the Mopani thickets just north of here, where you can't see the sky. You're in this uniform bush where you can get lost very, very easily. And the grasslands that are on the other side of the Kruger National Park, I've been lost quite a few times there, where you have a natural tendency when you're walking in the bush to go left around a tree or right around a tree. What you want to try and do is pick. Your natural tendency would be go left of a tree all the time, and that will make you walk in a broad circle, or go right around a tree in a broad circle. So when you get to a bush, what you want to try and do is walk left around one bush, right around another, and walk with the aspect of the land, and that should easily let you get home, or at least walk in a general direction. Now, Tintim, you asked me what is the oldest tree that we have out here. The oldest tree that we have out here would probably be one of the baobab trees, and they're looking at around about 1,600 to 2,500 years old for a tree. So you're looking at about 1,600 to 2,500 years old for a tree, with with one of the largest baobabs, in actual fact the largest tree in South Africa, occurring not too far from here, occurring close to Hoedspruit. It's the largest tree in South Africa, big giant baobab tree. As for the oldest tree in South Africa, you're probably looking at about 2,500 to about 3,500 years old. One of the olives would be one of the longest lived of the trees. I know there's a tree that's been dated, I think, at about 3,500 years, or somewhere between 2,500 or 3,500 years, a wild olive that is growing near the Waterberg, close to a town called Nat.Geo, and that's probably the oldest tree in South Africa, is one of the olives. With the oldest tree in the world also being an olive, I think in Jerusalem. I'm not too sure exactly how many thousands of years old, but that tree was also being dated at many thousands of years old, easily over 4,000 years old, as the oldest tree on the face of the planet. Can you imagine that? 4,000 years, one tree. It's just astounding. All right, let's carry on here. Doing what we need to do, walking on game paths, but picking aspect quite carefully and walking left around some bushes and right around others, so that we walk generally in a straight line. All right, now we are coming to that time of the day where, apart from us needing to find our way home, we're also coming to the end of the show. So I just want to say thank you very much, obviously, to my colleagues firstly, and then secondly to all of you out there that give us all the support that you do, all the questions during these game drives. You so often drive where we go and how we do our things, and of course for everything else out there, all the support structures out there that make this all possible. So we just want to say thank you. We will catch you again this afternoon at 3:30 Central Africa time, and you're going to basically leave the show with us walking down this lovely game path, and we'll see you again soon.